This show is sponsored by SEVI, answering all your commercial real estate needs. SEVI is the first commercial real estate company committed to the 4 C's: commercial real estate, community, content, and culture. Go visit SEVI at SEVI, SEVI properties.com. Again, SEVIproperties.com. Hello everyone, welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you. We have Mack Anderson. Mack is the CEO and co-founder of ZenJoy. Welcome to the show, Mack.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for having me. Excited.
Of course, man. The pleasure is all mine. So before we go into your business and personal journey, in case someone in the audience, they're like, you know what, that name rings a bell, ZenJoy. I feel like I've seen them somewhere in some store. If you could just give us a brief general overview, what do you folks do there, please?
Yeah, so ZenJoy is a stress relief drink. We started it about 2.5, 3 years ago. You may have seen it, maybe in Giant, maybe in Food Lion. What we do is we took stress relief and we put it in a can, as we say. So ingredients like ashwagandha, which is proven to lower cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. That's when we're all feeling stressed. Cortisol is the cause of that. L-theanine and lemon balm as well. Call that the Zen blend. Put it in 4 flavors of delicious tea. So we got a mango black tea, honey green tea, passion fruit green tea, and lavender black tea, with a couple more flavors coming soon. But you may have seen them in a store near you. That is possible.
That's awesome. Can't wait to get into how this whole thing even started. Before that, are you originally from the Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia area?
Yeah, so born and raised in Columbia, Maryland. Went to school in Howard County. Went to a 1.5 years of community college. Gave up on that. I'm very bad at taking directions from people, so gave up on that. And yeah, there's a long background of how we got into it. Me and my 2 co-founders are part of some previous businesses in the area as well, but I am Maryland born and raised. I even at this point, I feel like I'm from Baltimore because our office is up in Towson. So
I love that. So a local boy.
Yes, absolutely. All 3 of us are. All 3 of us
Okay.
are. Actually, one of my co-founders is my best friend since I was 11 years old. So
That's awesome. So you graduated high school, and then you said you tried community college. What, Howard
Mhm.
Community College?
Howard Community, you got it, man.
Okay. All right. That's great. And I guess school wasn't for you, but before then, growing up as a child in Columbia, were you into sports or some other activities? What were you
Yeah.
into outside of school?
Yeah, I was big in soccer, and actually that's one of the foundational reasons I got into entrepreneurship. My coach at Oakland Mills High School, Don Shea, is kind of a business mentor. He's a big real estate investor. He would always joke that he teaches social studies to pay the Comcast bill, and that's about it. But he owns probably 60 properties at one point, I think, at his height in this area. And one day just kind of put Think and Grow Rich on my desk. I don't know why. I was a complete buzz brain in high school. I was never paying attention to much. I guess he saw that I worked really hard for the sport that I loved, which was soccer. Knew that gene was in me and put Think and Grow Rich in front of me, which is the first business book I read. That one's very top level. It's not hard numbers. It's kind of puts the dream in you if you read it for the first time at that age.
Mhm.
And from that moment on, I was kind of just, how do I make it? How do I get a social media page following? How do I start that kind of business? How do I do this? How do I do that? Even to the point where me and one of my co-founders at ZenJoy, Tim, were coming to Oakland Mills High School with coolers of sodas, walking through the hall, selling the sodas, no joke, selling the sodas until they made us stop. So that's kind of where the journey started, was in high school when I was playing soccer with Don Shea.
That's great. I think I was in high school too when I read that book. I'm trying to
Really?
go back. Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Think and
good
Grow
one.
Rich, or the Greatest Salesman on Earth. I think there was another one. Yep.
Richest Man in Babylon,
Yeah,
Rich Dad Poor Dad. All those
exactly.
books were part of Shea's almanac of entrepreneurial resources, and kind of just started feeding those to me at an early age, which was great mentorship to have.
That's great. So you graduated from, you said, Oakland Mills High School?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Is that near Oakland Mills Road?
Yeah. So it's right off of Oakland Mills Road. It's one of the, out of Howard County, it's probably one of the less resourced schools, which I think was good. Because Howard County is a really nice place to grow up, but some places are kind of too nice to give you that kind of edge that I think you kind of need, the chip on your shoulder. So growing up in Oakland Mills was great. It was a great experience. A lot of great friends from that area that are now sending me pictures of ZenJoy and stuff like that they buy at the store, which is really trippy to have happen. But yeah, Oakland Mills, I bleed orange and black, as they say.
Uh, no, that's awesome because I had some commercial properties right there on Oakland Mills Road near
Yep.
I think Little Patuxent River Parkway.
Yep. Yep. Right over there. You
Yeah,
got it,
like
man.
there's like the new Wegmans around there and everything. Yep, I'm
Yep.
very familiar with that
Absolutely.
area.
Absolutely. Maybe one day we'll be in that Wegmans. Maybe sometime soon, actually.
That's the plan, right?
That is the plan. Yep.
So basically, you started slinging soft drinks in high school, Mac. That's how it started, right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Started doing that, and then really the first, kind of actual business step we took was we had kind of a network of social media pages. They were just like literally like memes, viral videos, and then we ended up starting to get paid. When I say we, me and Tim, my co-founder ZenJoy, were both doing this. Started to get paid to do those posts, paid to advertise products. And I remember a very foundational moment for me, and actually why I left community college was I was in the business course I was taking at the time, and we were supposed to create like a mock-up business. And I was like, well, I'm actually doing something, so why not, make it easy on myself and just write about what I am doing. And I remember the professor, once I submitted, essentially being like, social media is not a business, and this was 2017. So they weren't wrong or right. It definitely wasn't as big as it is now. But I was making a good amount of money at that time doing that. So it kind of was just like a weird juxtaposition of, you're telling me it's not a business, I'm running it as a business. And that was kind of when I became a little bit, anti-traditional schooling in a sense. And the next year I didn't end up returning to community college.
So then after that, did you go like full force? Let's see if we can grow this social media thing, this business.
So actually, at Howard Community College, I met a person, Dhruvesh Patel, who had an idea. They wanted to start a CBD brand. Had this whole thought process. Their family was in, real estate, in liquor stores, smoke shops, and things like that. And he had kind of just seen CBD selling really quickly. And he was also a student at HCC at the time, and came to me and Tim and asked us to help him start this business. So at that point, I had ended up selling the social media page I was running. I just sold it wholesale to another business, and kind of went all in on that brand. And this was late 2018, so it was coming right around the corner. Late 2018. So when we started the business, it grew pretty quick, and then COVID hit and kind of went sideways from there, I'll say.
Sure. So that business, you guys were just selling CBD products, I guess, to tobacco smoke shops in the area, right?
Correct. Yep. We probably ended up in about 1,000 stores. We were closing in on $1.5 million in revenue in like year 2.
Wow.
Got a warehouse. We were producing in-house too, so it was all vertically integrated. So we'd work with Maryland hemp farmers, contract product from them, which was great for the local ecosystem. Contract product from them, bring it in. We would trim it. We had a giant, like $30,000 machine trimmer. We would trim it. Then we had a production line where they would pack it. We did, anything from like CBD cigarettes. We had gummies. We had the actual packaged flower. We were in a lot of locations between here down into Richmond, up into probably the Philadelphia area. But we had made a big commitment on a warehouse, and added a lot of people to the team. And COVID hit, impacted the revenue a lot. A lot of those retailers we were working with weren't even opening. And a lot of other regulatory issues, kind of, $1.5 million down. That was a big learning lesson for sure. Big learning lesson.
When it was going downhill, how did ZenJoy come about?
Yeah. So, we had always known CBD had stress relief properties, but we didn't think it was an effective solution. And when that business everyone went their separate ways, the business closed. Me and my co-founder at ZenJoy, Tim, we were minority partners in the CBD business. It was called Native. We were minority, small partners in that business, but original team, members. And then a third member from that team, Daniel, our third co-founder here at ZenJoy, we all kind of got together and were like, we don't want to stop doing this. We want to continue the journey. I don't want to go get a job. I don't want to do that. And kind of just came together and we're like, how do we take this thought process of stress relief, of people coming in, because there's so many people buying CBD to relax. That was what so many people said. But you look at the studies and it's not very effective at doing that. So we had the concept of a drink. We knew we wanted to do a drink. We were all big energy drink guys, kombucha guys. We consumed beverage at a high clip. And we actually joined an accelerator program with the concept of ZenJoy, the stress relief drink. We didn't even have the name at the time. And joined an accelerator program called SKU in New York, which, for lack of better terminology, took us from boys to men. You have an idea, that's cool. How do we actually make it, formulate it, manufacture it, get it out to market? And that was a 8-week program. We were driving up and down to New York. It was
it daily you were going up there or not?
Weekly,
Okay.
1 day a week for actually 12 weeks. 1 day a week for 12 weeks. The first 3 were virtual because COVID was still a thing. This was like 2021. Especially in New York, it was still a lot of regulation.
Yeah.
So we, ended up first half virtual, second half driving up and down. And by the end of that program, had a full formulation, branding, and the partner to produce the product with, and kind of just jumped all into it at that point at the end of 2022.
At that point, Mac, there are all these drinks in the market, right? From energy to making you feel all different types of ways. Did you see anything like that in the marketplace?
So there was some people, but they had CBD as their main ingredient. And we never thought that was the solution because of what we knew, because of our experience. And we looked at studies. We're big studies people. Like, KSM ashwagandha, the ashwagandha we use, has dozens of clinical studies around lowering cortisol. So when we looked at the market, whenever I'm pitching a group of people, this is kind of the question I pose. And this is the question we asked ourselves that created the concept and the foundation for what we're doing. I say, raise your hand if you feel tired every day. Everyone's hand goes up. If it's a room full of people, everyone's hand goes up. And I say, keep your hand up if you feel stressed almost as often. Most people's hands stay up. The people that put their hands down, I think, are lying, but most people's hands stay up. And then I ask the question, why are there so many billion-dollar brands, beverage brands, built around solving the first problem you raised your hand for, but none that you know of built around solving the second problem? And once we posed that question, our eyes were set on a very big goal, obviously, at that point. And everyone else in the industry was kind of 1 foot in one thing, 1 foot in another. So maybe I have ashwagandha in my drink, but I'm saying I'm a non-alc or a social tonic. Maybe I have, L-theanine in my drink, but actually we're a enhanced hydration product. We very early were like, we are stress relief. That is what we're doing. It's nothing else but that. We're not going to market it as a low sugar tea plus stress relief. We're going to market it as a stress relief drink. Took a lot of inspiration from like Red Bull and Monster in their early days when they created the energy drink market. It was not a thing. There was coffee. That was it. That was the only caffeinated beverage that people were consuming. So, and Coca-Cola. So, that early on, that decision to be all in on stress relief in our minds and in the market set us apart from people that were already kind of playing around in the industry.
So at this time, while you're in New York in the accelerator, are you building also at home, or once that's done, that's where you're like, okay, let's go full force?
Yeah. So we ended the program, mid 2022. We did our very first production run end of November of 2022 and started selling the product in 2023. And our first thought process was, all right, let's get this to all the local people. Like, let's literally put it in our cars and go to, you're from around here. So everyone listening is from around here. So Green Valley, Streets Market, Yes Organic, all those David's Natural Market, all those retailers that are located here in Maryland. We went out, drove, hey, can I talk to the manager? Manager comes up, here's a sample. At that time, the brand wasn't quite as put together as it is today. The messaging wasn't quite as put together as it is today, but the liquid was always very good. And a lot of people gave us that shot early and allowed us to bring the product into the store, gave us good placement. And then we would come back the next week with a little table, put the tablecloth out, get the little cups out, pour samples, and ask people, hey, do you want to try a stress relief drink? Do you want to try a stress relief drink? And immediately people, yeah, of course I want to try a stress relief drink. I mean, who doesn't want to, if you're in a grocery store, you know, you're not in a little street corner somewhere like, hey, come try this thing. If you're in a legitimate grocery store and someone's saying, do you want to try something that'll help your stress? Most people are going to give it a shot. And because we use real organic cane sugar, we don't use erythritol, monk fruit, stevia, the vast majority of consumers enjoyed the taste. It wasn't a weird, unfamiliar taste like a lot of the new age drinks are. So that early process emboldened us to, throughout that first year, continue to build on that momentum and get into more and more local retailers, cafes, sandwich shops, delis, literally all out of the back of our cars. I mean, I remember Daniel at one point had a pickup truck, and we were stacking cases in the back of the truck. And if it would rain, we would tarp the truck. And he would drive around with the cases in the back of the truck and deliver them, which was great because we got checks right away. You know, there was no waiting around for the money to come in. So it was fast, very early on, fast cash flow, and low cost. And it was an interesting process because a lot of people believed in us early, and we ended up working really hard to make sure the product got consumers and got out there.
That's crazy. So it all started with just local stores and just going door to door. You were
Literally.
even, I guess, bringing the product yourself as far as delivery. Okay.
Yep. Oh, 100% of it was delivered by us. And then at the end of 2023, and Tim had been working on this contract for a while, but we got a deal with Highs of Baltimore, which is a convenience store chain in Maryland, probably like 60 locations, about that. And that was our first relationship with a distributor. So, you know, they put us into their distributor Core-Mark, which is a, you know, $20 billion company. And this was kind of the first experience we had not having full control over what was happening and what was going on with the product. And it was also a moment of, you know, naivety when a billion-dollar company goes, well, what payment terms do you want? It's like, what can we ask for? Like, can we, you know, cash on delivery? Is that possible? Like, so that was an interesting experience. But then going and having the product in so many retailers that we couldn't do the demos in, we couldn't do the you know, we call it hands on the cans. We couldn't have the control we wanted, and it still was moving at the level the retailer needed it to move to feel like it was successful. And that was another inclination to us, like, if we can sell like this with no marketing, zero marketing, in a retailer that we have no control over the destiny of the product, this means it's something people want. And that just further emboldened us to continue that journey into the next year, which was last year, 2024, which was a foundational year for us, for sure.
That's interesting, Max. So you were going to these, let's say, retailers, mostly C-stores, right? That you couldn't do the demos in, and you were still selling. What do you think was it? Was it the packaging that stood out, or was it where you were placement? Or I don't know if you were placed by the register or.
Yeah, definitely wasn't where we were placed.
Okay.
We had not great placement, but I mean, God bless Highs for taking that shot on us, because that, I mean, regardless of where they put us in the store, it was a incredible opportunity that they did not have to give us. But the buyer there, Mike Jackson, early on just believed in, I think, Tim primarily, even more than the brand, believed in Tim, and wanted to give us that shot. And I think the reason why it did so well is because, I mean, it's good packaging, but when you're a customer, when you're a consumer, and millions of consumers every day are walking into these retailers and they're looking up at the shelf, and one of the problems they're experiencing is stress. I mean, a lot of these people, they're coming into these stores on their way home from work, on their way to work, on the way to pick up the kids, on the way from something that is stressing them out, whether consciously or subconsciously. They don't even know this is a product that's available. When they look on the shelf and they see a product that says stress relief drink right on the front of it, it just naturally, you want to try that. You want to see if it'll work for you. And we think the two main pillars of our product are functionality and flavor. So if we deliver on the functionality, which we always have, our formulation has always been clinically studied with really good ingredients, efficacious doses, right there on the can. This is how much of this is in there. And then the fact that we used real organic cane sugar, only 15 grams, but still, it's a familiar flavor. You know, a lot of these new products are going for zero sugar and they're using, you know, monk fruit or stevia that leaves a bad bitter aftertaste. The average consumer is not going to try that product a second time. But for us, you know, put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. You grabbed a product that said it was a stress relief drink. It worked. You had less stress in your day, and then you enjoyed the flavor. You're going to tell people about that. That's a word of mouth. That's something that'll spread via word of mouth, especially because it's not something that you can buy in a lot of places and a lot of different brands. If it's a new energy drink, it's like, okay, there's a million options for energy drinks. It's not something to go write home about that, Monster released a new flavor that you liked. But when you have a completely new function that you value, the consumer values stress relief, that's something that we really think a big part of it was word of mouth. The first person to try it told the next person, told the next person, told the next person. And then over time, that just compounds. And when a product works for you, stress never goes away. It's not like our product makes you immune from stress at all times. So just as a caffeinated drink, you're not going to drink an energy drink and forever have energy. You're going to drink one each time you feel like you need a boost. So that we relied on that repeat buy, just the natural inclination of the product to have repeat buyers. And then kind of hoped and prayed that people told their friends about it, told their family about it, that it worked for them the same way it worked for us. And it did succeed in that retailer. We're still in that retailer, and we're trying to grow the convenience store chain here this year. But yeah, they were our first big opportunity.
How is the resale rate, I guess, as far as people like reordering again?
Yeah, so it's harder to say as a primarily retail-based business. People that run like a big e-commerce business, that's a much easier metric to pull. I will say this, we're outperforming in our category by 2 to 3x what the buyers baseline us at.
Wow.
So most buyers are like in convenience, for example, in convenience, they want you to move 2-3 units per SKU, per flavor per week. We're moving higher than that. And then in grocery, which we can get into, which is kind of in the next phase of our journey now last year with Giant and Food Line coming on, we're leading in the sets that we're in up against $100 million brands. We're outperforming them in terms of units sold. And that's the metric you look at is units sold per flavor per week per store. That's the metric we really gauge on.
That's amazing, Matt. Congrats.
Thank you, man. We got a lot of work more to do. I mean, these things just make us know we need more opportunity. When the product's moving really well and we're only in 450 stores total to date, we just need more opportunity. That's where our minds are.
So you again, back to the C store and the growth there.
Yeah.
So you saw that it was selling and you didn't have to be there demoing all day. And you're like, okay, there's something here. And then I guess now you shifted to, I guess, trying to grow to grocery stores.
Yeah. So 2024, we set out, we had a list of retailers we wanted to get into. And at the top of the list was Giant Food. And we kind of put it there like, yeah, put it on there. We'll see what happens. We were still targeting smaller retailers, smaller chains. And then we ran into the Giant Food buyer at an event called DC Startup Week. I don't know if you're familiar with that event. Yeah, which is a fantastic group of people. I recommend everybody goes and looks that up if you're an entrepreneur listening. But ran into their buyer there, and her name's Brooke, and she was just like, this is really cool. Like, we don't have anything like this. Are you guys local? Okay, you are local. Let me introduce you to the beverage buyer and see what they can do. And that introduction happened early on in 2024, and it probably took 2 to 3 months to actually get the beverage team on a call with us to pitch. But once we got them on the call and they were like, we want to bring this in, it was like that. And the reason it was like that is because we, when I was saying 20 minutes ago, we delivered our own product. That became a sophisticated operation. It became no longer out of the back of my car. It was out of a wrapped ZenJoy van. So when the buyer asked us, how do you want to launch? Do you want to go through this distributor we work with, or do you want to, bring it in yourself? It's like, we'll do it ourselves. And that was one of those moments where it's like, you shouldn't say that, but you say it, and now you have to deliver on it. So literally deliver on it. So, but that ended up fast tracking the whole thing because we were able to launch what's referred to as off cycle. So most of these large retailers, you have one opportunity a year where they reset the shelf and they bring in new products. We were able to launch completely off cycle. We were able to launch with a lot of personal relationships we developed with the grocery store managers. So it wasn't a conscious, okay, we need to go from convenience now, we need to get into grocery, we need to do this, we need to do that. We were kind of just following the opportunity. And most of our mentors and advisors and peers in the space were like, yeah, Giant's not going to be where you build a new brand. That's a conventional retailer. So it's a high-low retailer. So the price, they really are always trying to get the best price and offer the best price to their customers. It's not about new age stuff. But we had a thesis from the beginning, from the foundation of the company, which is when we look at the data with how many people are stressed. If you're building a brand only for the Whole Foods, Sprouts, ultra premium consumer, you're going to be missing a crap ton of those stressed out people. And that was never in our playbook, was never, go ultra premium only.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an opportunity for us to really, heat check ourselves of like, hey, is this, okay, can sell in a, small regional convenience store chain? Can it sell in the Mid-Atlantic's largest, percentage share of the grocery industry's retailer? Giant is number one. I mean, between Maryland, DC, Virginia, they are number one market share. So that opportunity was crazy. We kind of hit the ground running, and it's panned out very well for us.
With Giant, did you start only a couple stores, or how was that progression?
Well, the buyer, Matt, his name's Matt Petro. He's an amazing person, amazing human being. And he activated us in all 165 stores. Was basically like, go do your thing, see what you guys can do. Because again, we were off cycle. So there was no, it's called planogrammed. There was no like place that the stores knew we had to be in the store. So I think it took us 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks to launch the full chain. I think about 150 out of the 165 stores we launched in within 6 weeks, which was a crazy. I mean, like, you got to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning because these stores have receiving hours between 5 and noon. You got to hit 12 stores a day. So it's like that. And it was a very breakneck pace, but we wanted to, the opportunity to launch, it started in May. So we were like, okay, we need to launch to get all these stores filled because we're about to hit, in the beverage industry, which is called the 100 days of summer. And that is the time for a packed single serve beverage to be sold at a high clip. So we wanted to get out there, take advantage of that. Managers were a lot more open to it than they are in February. So we wanted to launch in that time frame. We got it done, but it was we definitely still had some moments where we utilized our own cars to get to a store if we needed to. We also had a great relationship with Penske to rent vehicles short term, so we could get product out there quickly. But it was about almost 2 months of me, Tim, and Dan in the trucks every single day getting product out there.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Matt, because I was going to ask that next. I'm like, how do you go from delivering in a truck or your sedan or whatever to now delivering at 160 plus stores here in the area?
Yeah, insanity.
That's just crazy growth.
Yeah, it takes being a little crazy too. I think honestly, at the end of the day, like it takes kind of a little. There's a lot of moments where you look at each other like, what are we doing right now? Like this, we could have gone with this distributor. But the fact of the matter is, you go with the distributor. Again, it goes back to, do you control your own destiny? And very quickly, we got to see in the back, receiving areas of these giants, when these distributors bring in product, they don't care. They literally do not care. They're dropping off a pallet. That pallet has a ton of different brands on it. They don't care at all about that product getting on the shelf, about the sales tags being up, things like that. That just that extra mile creates so much value for the brand on the shelf. So because we were able to go in, sell the product in, put the product on the shelves ourselves, make sure the sales tags are up, negotiate, hey, can we get this extra display over here? It's a new brand. See how it does. We'll take down the display. If it doesn't do great, we'll never take the display down. So that kind of thing, it happened quick. We bought our first van to Ram ProMaster in cash, which was an interesting process. Wrapped it with the logo, and then rented a van for, I think, 4 months from Penske. Did a 4-month contract with Penske. So we had 2 vans. And then we also quickly hired what's referred to as an independent distributor. So it's a 1099 individual that owns their own business. This particular person worked for a premium coffee company that also was selling into Giant and other retailers, and added ZenJoy to their truck. And that was for like the central and southern Virginia stores, stores that take us 2 hours to even get to in the morning. Brought that person on quickly. They've been an amazing partner. They're doing great. We're doing great. Everyone's happy in that relationship. But it was a very quick, it was a quick process. And we surrounded ourselves with people that had done it before. One of our board members and advisors is a VP at the same premium coffee company that has been DSD. It's referred to as DSD, direct store distribution. It's been DSDing for 30 years. Runs $60 million out of one warehouse every year out of Rockville. So, put ourselves in with the right people and kind of just accepted our fate of like, this is what we're going to have to do until the job's done, which I think was an important factor. I mean, most people start a brand and they don't envision themselves doing a lot of like physical labor to get their product out there. But because of that, they're losing out on a lot of opportunity. And that opportunity is transformed into a whole litany of things with Giant and Food Line. And now we're bringing in other brands. It's not just ZenJoy on the trucks anymore. Now at this point, it's other brands as well, which has been an incredible experience.
And you're also manufacturing it yourself, right?
Yeah. So, we have an amazing production partner that we work with. They're actually located in Georgia. And they have been, they're not on our cap table. They don't own any percentage of the business, but they should, based off of how much they've done for us. They don't, but they should. We've actually offered it to them before, because they are best in class. It's a production facility owned by a very, very large ingredients company. And because of that, we don't have to buy any of our ingredients. They have them in stock. So the cash flow issue that presents itself for a lot of early food and beverage brands doesn't present itself in our situation, which is why we've been able to do what we've done, be debt free, and have kept so much equity in the business, raised such a small amount of money, is because of that cash flow relationship we have with our production partner. So we don't produce it ourselves. Like, I'm not in there, mixing up the batches and stuff. But actually, funny enough, this last week was production week. And every time we do production, I'm like, I'm stressed out. I'm drinking a ton of ZenJoy. I'm chugging my own product down because it is very, very stressful. But they're amazing. They're an amazing partner, and I think we're on our probably 15th or 16th production we just completed.
So they produce it in Georgia, they ship it to Maryland, and then from there you guys distribute.
Correct. So yeah, we have a warehouse that we work with in Columbia that holds all of our product. We produce, we ship it up via the truckload, so 21 pallets per truck, ship it up. Which is when you really hit economy of scale, is when you're shipping by the truckload. It's very expensive to ship less than truckloads. So like our first production, and it's crazy to think about this, like our first production was probably, between the 4 flavors, was probably like 700 cases. I think we just completed like a 12,000 case production. So it's grown a lot. It's fun though, man. It's fun. It really is fun.
At Giant, were you also doing demos, or?
Yeah, so we did early on. We did demos in some of the key Giants, but it was really trippy to see. Like, we would launch into some stores that we would think would do fantastic. They wouldn't do as well as we hoped. We have much higher expectations than the buyer does. So we would go do demos at that store, and then there would be stores where it's like, nah, this isn't going to do great here, and it would just sell itself. We wouldn't have to do any demos. And that kind of stuff continued to, kind of like the situation in Highs when it just sold itself. That continued to embolden us, because at the end of the day, like, me, Tim, and Dan, we're not guys with like massive social circles of people, that we're not influencers that have the ability to push a ton of people into these stores. So it was just people seeing the product, buying it. I've never met these people. I don't know these people. They're buying it. They're drinking it. They're repurchasing it. Like one of my uncles sent me a Facebook thread he came across the other day that was literally just a lady posting about ZenJoy. Like, oh, I've never heard of these drinks. I love these drinks. I don't know the people that make it, but they're local. You should go try it out. And it was like 50 comments.
Oh,
People
wow.
like, people like, oh, I love this drink. I love this drink. I buy it here. I buy it there. It's just very trippy to see that kind of stuff. But we did do some demos early on in Giant. We probably haven't done demos in 6 months, I would say. And last week was our all-time highest sale week in terms of velocity through the register, which if you know beverage at the end of February, that is not common. Typically single-serve beverage peaks in the 100 days of summer. So we're very, very excited to see how July, August, September are going to be for us this year. Because if we're hitting the highs now, we're excited to see what it's like when people are actually like buying it just because they're thirsty, literally.
Yeah. That's interesting. So from Giant, then I know you mentioned Food Line. I guess from there, was it easier to get into Food Line and other grocery stores?
Yeah, so Food Line and Giant are owned by the same parent company, which did make it very easy for the item numbers to be sent over to Food Line and for the vendor, especially the vendor number, because being our own vendor, working it through our own trucks, that did take a little bit of time with Giant to set up. So it was a blessing to be able to just kind of copy and paste over to Food Line. That opportunity came probably towards the end of last year, maybe October of last year, that opportunity came. And like the same person I said, one of our board members, his name's Jeff, he was like, you guys are not going to sell in Food Line. Like, there's no way that this is going to go well. You shouldn't do this. You should focus on Wegmans, focus on Harris Teeter, trying to get in, regional Whole Foods, things like that. And, to a certain extent, we didn't know if it was going to work either because, Food Line is very, a cost efficient retailer. They aren't creative in the sense that they bring in new age functional stuff. They're usually last to market with those things like Olipop and those new age drinks that Whole Foods brought in 3 years ago. It takes that long for Food Line to get to that point where they're comfortable. And we were working with their local buyer. So we weren't even getting like main line placement, which is in the main aisle. We were getting like a small rack in the back corner of the store somewhere. It said local, but like 90% of the products were spices and Lido's pizza sauce. And like, we were like, okay, screw it. We'll do it.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. We'll do our thing where we go in, we get the extra displays, we get the extra placements. And it started like literally right away outperforming Giant. And we did no samplings, no demos. We haven't done a single demo in a Food Line. And it's just been taking off.
Outperforming Giant.
Yeah, man, outperforming Giant. Now because Giant's ticked up even more, I'd say they're even. Both are producing anywhere from 18 to 20 units per week in the stores, which is really, really good for our category. But it just took off right away. We were like, what is going on? To the point where like the local buyer, she called us from Food Line, introduced us to like the regional, what's called center store, which is like they manage the stores from a corporate level. And that guy was like, all right, let's get you into the Delaware stores. Let's get you into these Virginia stores. Like they were literally activating like store by store when we weren't even we're not local technically in Virginia. We're a Maryland company, but they were like, let's do it. Like, let's activate these stores. To like even 2 weeks ago, we launched in UVA, the college, called that guy and he was like, all right, let's get you in all the Charlottesville stores. Like, let's go, let's get this set up. So, to see that further emboldened us of like, this is something people want. It is. I mean, we're doing the exact opposite method that most brands do. Most brands are like, once we land Whole Foods, once we land Sprouts, these natural premium banners, then we'll start to spread into the Safeways and the Food Lines and the Giants. We've just found a lot more, for lack of a better term, more welcoming from these conventional buyers. So we've just ran with it. And because the product is producing the velocity it's like the conversations are so easy now. Like we launch Giant Eagle, which is Pennsylvania's #1 market share retailer, again, conventional. We launched them in 2 weeks, I think, 2.5 weeks. And And it was like, as soon as he looked at the data, he was like, yeah, sure, we'll give it a shot. This is great. These numbers are great. So, sometimes we don't even realize what we're doing is not standard for the industry. And I'm very excited to see, like, once we do get placed in like a Whole Foods, what do the numbers look like then? I mean, if this is what we're doing in conventional retail, what are we going to do in the premium retail? So it's been,
Everyone obviously has stress, right? And everyone deals with it differently. I mean, what do you think? Because like we were saying, Mac, some things you didn't expect are happening, and you're like, I mean, that's great. The demand is there, but what do you think
yeah.
is it that basically wherever you're placed, it's selling and even more than what you originally thought and expected.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my co-founder, Daniel, uses the term sticky. Our product is very sticky. So like, you try it, you enjoy it, and it works. That's like a lost art in food and beverage. So many people will tell you so many things about what their product does, or it tastes great, or, and they don't deliver because they're way too focused on what the founder thinks is great, or what the founding team likes the flavor of. And that was never what our approach was. It was always, what are people telling us at the demos we're doing at the store level? What are they complaining about? Like, for example, we just added onto the label 3 months ago a breakdown of what each ingredient does on the label. We didn't have that before, and we would do demos, and people would look and go, well, what's ashwagandha? Okay, well, if I'm not here to tell you that, you're going to pick that can up and put it right back down.
Yeah.
So, me, Tim, and Dan stacked our knowledge and just created a product that we know the consumer is enjoying because they've told us what they want on it and in it. So it's that. I mean, that's what creates the stickiness. That's what creates the word of mouth. That's what creates the wanting to tell your friends or your coworkers or your family about the product, is you enjoyed it and it really worked. And there's so many products so many brands that they spend a lot of money getting you to try it, but they've forgotten they have to deliver on what they're promising. So for us, it's always been about that. It's been about functionality and flavor. If you deliver on those two things, everything else will follow. And that's what we really think it is. Plus, it's such a alluring call out, stress relief. Like you said, a lot of people are stressed. People will tell you they aren't. I genuinely think those are the most stressed people, but so many people are stressed, and they're walking around. They don't even know this is a solution that can be given to them in a form of a drink. They have no idea. So when they see it, they want to try it. And because of that, we get a lot of first-time trial that doesn't cost us money. But if we were putting on our drink, we're a mocktail and had all the same ingredients and called it like a social tonic or something like that, people wouldn't give a crap. They really wouldn't. We would have to spend so much money getting them to actually want to try the product. That's why we're all in on stress relief, because it's just, most consumers, they want that. That's an outcome they want from a drink.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's great. I mean, most of the ingredients you mentioned, I do take just in a pill form, like a vitamin. So
we made it for you, man. We made it for you. And I have so many people that come up to us and say, oh, I take ashwagandha. And I'm like, we made it for you. Because it is hard to, from a consumer's perspective, it's hard to want to brag to your friends and family about this new pill you started taking or this new gummy you started eating. It's not natural to do that, but it is very, very, plus you're usually not out. There's no like public moment where you're taking that pill and people are watching you take that pill and like, oh, what is that guy taking? Like, let me go, figure out what that guy's taking. But when we go into, for example, one of our customers, Needs Bakery in downtown Baltimore, they're a big cafe. I'll go in and I'll see people drinking it, like at their table, just drinking it. They're working on their laptop. They're drinking a ZenJoy. That's something that a gummy or a pill doesn't offer, that natural marketing. So then when someone comes into the store, sees that person drinking that, looks over at the fridge as they're checking out, goes, that looks interesting. I'm going to try that. That's the value of the product form we have. Like, there has, for a long time, there's been ashwagandha pills and ashwagandha gummies and L-theanine pills and L-theanine gummies. Lemon Balm's a little newer, but those two ingredients have been out there for a very, very long time. In fact, there's $100 million revenue brands, Goli and Ali and all these brands built around their stress relief SKUs. But the way, again, another theory we have that we hope plays out over the next decade is beverage is cultural. It permeates culture in a way, food and beverage, that most things can't. And that's where the value comes from, because it naturally is something you want to tell your friends about. When you're taking your ashwagandha pill to help with stress, you're not going to call up your buddy, dude, I just found this brand new pill at Giant. It's fantastic. You got to try it. But if you're drinking a ZenJoy and you're with your buddy and he's, what's that? It's just so natural of a thing to happen. Nothing about it is artificial.
Yeah. I love it. You mentioned earlier too about your cap table and how you just a little bit of investment. So did you, obviously it was the whole thing was in bootstrap. So you did get some initial investment, or how did that go about?
I hate the term bootstrap because it's too friendly. At least for what we did, we white knuckled it, man. We white knuckled it is the term I
Okay.
use. But yeah, year one, I think we raised like 40 grand to do the formulation and first production and the label and all of that.
That's probably what friends and family.
All friends and family.
Hmm.
Yep, all friends and family. Primarily just at that point, just family.
Sure.
Um, and then I think year two, which was last year, we raised another 100,000 about, which was
Hmm.
more angel investors, still some family, but mostly like small $10,000 to $20,000 checks from angel investors. We did win one grant competition for like 30 or 40 grand, which was great. That was awesome experience. But yeah, like lifetime raise is like 150K on a safe note. So technically we've given up no equity at this point, although we're very excited for that to convert and our friends and family to, be able to recognize that equity value. But, it's been an interesting process. Like we don't necessarily wear that as a badge of pride. Like we
Hmm.
want more funds, we want more resources. But we're just, without any specifics, like we turned down an ultra high net worth individual wanted to invest 250,000. But we couldn't, we had a valuation. We thought he had the same one. It didn't work out. And we said no. Like at the end of the day, we were like, no, we're gonna have to pass. And not a lot of people in our shoes with the amount of bootstrapping, whatever you want to call it, that we did would say no to that deal, because that would have been an opportunity to deploy a lot of capital where we know where we need to spend the money very, very well because of how budget efficient we have to be. So we know exactly where to deploy capital right now. So we're very close, I would say, to closing that. It's our pre-seed round. We're close. We have a lot of high level opportunities that we've been gathering, but I would say no one can say to us that we haven't proven that we know how to efficiently use money. Because I was talking to one of the chairman actually of that program we did in New York. His name's Eric Schnell. Started a big beverage company called Steez a while back. I was asking him because we're about to hit $1 million run rate. We're right there. We'll have our first like $80,000 month here in March. And I asked him, what is the typical amount you see raised up in, to get to this point? He said anywhere between $500,000 and $750,000 is typically what he's seen raised and burned.
Hmm.
Not like, oh, they got it sitting in the bank, raised and burned to get to that $1 million run rate. So that is something we're proud of, but we just, we want to scale it. We think we've proven the concept and we've, built enough of our understanding of what people want to be able to take this to the next level, grow multi-regionally, take some of the big retail opportunities that we haven't been able to grab as much as we want because we have to measure ourselves sometimes.
With the capital raising in the
Yeah.
future, is it more you're looking for just loan or also maybe equity there?
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because we've had a lot of non-dilutive offers come in lately. Purchase order financing, production financing, things like that, which we're happy to have access to after 3 years of nothing like that being available to us. But we are looking for, to close out the pre-seed round, which is an equity round. So Yeah, we're trying to stay as low debt as possible,
Sure.
and we are debt free. We have no debt
Hmm.
right now at this moment. So yeah, we're trying to continue that trend, but also at the same time, there's opportunities to take on healthy debt, where we can get our cost of goods down, really open up the gross margin, which is kind of hitting that economy of scale is the term you used in the beginning of the show. I mean, yeah, that economy of scale, we're right there. You hit $1 million, and you can really start to get your costs down, especially with the cans that we use. We can really, really get our costs down here soon. We just have to have a bigger spend in to be able to buy more, and that's healthy debt. That's good debt. But we're evaluating all the opportunities, and we really do hope to close the pre-seed soon. Hope some of the people that are looking to invest actually write the check. So
That's great. The team, I know you said you and the three of you. Has it always been the three of you, or how does it look now?
yeah, so it's always been the three of us as the founders. We have a advisor that helps us a lot, who's also a board member, and that's
Hmm.
our board right there. Is the four of us. Then we have, I want to say, probably 4 or 5 employees that are part time. They're either like we have another independent distributor that does the Eastern Shore for us, who's actually about to graduate Salisbury. He's a really good kid. He's a business student, very motivated. And then we have in Virginia, and then we have a whole kind of cohort of very part-time brand influencers and people that are going to be running some of those tastings and demos for us here this summer, so that we can do more with we ourselves will go to some of the bigger sponsorships and then have the team go out to some of the smaller sponsorships and stuff like that, and demos. So we're building the team slowly but surely. Our next hire is going to be finance for sure. Definitely going to be finance. Me and my two co-founders, we know what we don't know, and I think it's incredible what we've done with our cash up until this point, and how efficient we've been for how little we know.
Yeah.
But having someone who's been in the thick of it in food and beverage on the finance side is going to be an important step for us, especially when we start to get more investor dollars to be able to safely deploy that.
What do you do, Mac, from a marketing standpoint to drive traffic?
Yeah, yeah, man. Daniel's actually, I kicked him out of the room for the podcast. He's over there. He does all of that, and I would say that it's a very simple ideology. It's liquid to lips. We do zero social media paid marketing. We do some free influencer stuff, like free product for posts. Um, but liquid to lips is number one. So like, we sponsor so many community events. We sponsor big event, everything from Artscape, which had 125,000 people at it, that we had 10 barrel coolers just giving away product for free
Oh, wow.
throughout the event, all the way down to, we have a community of teachers that we work with, that we provide free product to for their staff meetings, things like that. I mean, our number one trade spend or marketing spend is free product, because again, it goes back to our product works. Like what other best dollar spend is there than the dollar it cost me to make a ZenJoy, giving it to you drink it, and now you love it and you're a lifelong consumer. I can spend as much money on social media ads as I want. That's not going to prove that the product is valuable to a customer, but giving it to them for free, they drink it, they love it. That proves that it's valuable. And then another thing I think is important, especially if anyone listening is trying to get into food and beverage, something that we overlooked in the beginning that we've gone very hard on here in Q4 2024. Now 2025 is a huge goal set for us, is food service. So we're in a lot of universities, hospitals, offices, which is all paid marketing. Like, they buy the product from us. The office buys it, the university buys it. We have great relationships, and everyone's happy because they're selling it too. But that customer is not stocking up for their week with the can they're buying from the Johns Hopkins student store. They're going down the street for their grocery shopping and buying 6 of them from Giant, and they're finding it in the food service location. So that's like paid marketing. More places for consumers to find the product is really the number one approach.
Being in the thick of things, only just a couple years old, ZenJoy, what would you say is a major setback you guys had,
Mm,
in the last couple of years, and
absolutely.
would you learn from that?
Absolutely. We had an entire production run fail one time. Obviously our risk is minimized on that front because of the relationship I explained where, we're not buying the ingredients up front, but we still lost 30% of the cost of the cans that were, unusable. And that is a situation where it could have gone really bad depending on the cycle of cash flow we were in. Fortunately, it was at a time when we were on the better end of the cash flow cycle. But I think back to that moment and it was like, what are we going to do? This is horrible. I was calling Daniel like, dude, I don't know what we're going to do. And he was just like, we're going to figure it out. We'll figure it out. We always figure it out. And now looking back on that, that was probably 6 months ago. Doesn't even really feel like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think kind of having perspective, minimizing your risk is a lesson we learned from that in a positive way. But then just having perspective on it could have gone a lot worse. Worse things could have happened. I woke up this morning. I was fine this morning. The day I had my day, that's the best thing that could have happened. Now, having a production run fall short is not going to ruin the business. So kind of keeping that perspective of being in the moment, not really having a doomsday perspective when bad things happen, because bad things are going to happen. I mean, I could go through a whole list of things that have happened that have set us back, but it's kind of keep the main goal, and keep moving forward was the big takeaway from that.
If someone's listening to this, Mac, and they've always aspired to have their own business, probably maybe in the totally different industry than what you do, well, what advice would you give that person?
I was going to say, if it's in the beverage industry, don't do it, unless you're insane. But jump into it. But they say don't go into business with your friends. I don't subscribe to that. Find people you really trust. So I think solo founders, it's got to be really difficult, because I know that there have been moments that I've almost lost my head, and it's like, okay, I got two partners in this. We can spread the panic, multiply the good, divide the bad. I would say number one thing is find good people to do it with, because it is not something that I could have done by myself or survived by myself. So find good people to do it with, and then, crawl, walk, run. Maybe you have an opportunity to go really crazy out the gate and raise a bunch of money and go as hard as possible, but that's not always the best thing. And I think a lot of people, they get into business to try and create generational wealth. A lot of people do that. You don't need $1 billion to create generational wealth. You can run something that is much, much, much smaller than that and create generational wealth. So, just know what you really want before you start, and then start it with good people that you trust.
That's great advice. What drives and motivates you?
I would say, from a personal point of view, outside of ZenJoy, it is that generational wealth creation. My family it's like just salary employees whole life. No disrespect against it, but that's something that I kind of want to elevate past, and always have ever since I got Think and Grow Rich on my desk in high school. I've always kind of had that bug, that itch to do something more. For ZenJoy, it's the impact we're having on people. I mean, like the amount of feedback that we get that, like, I drink this every day. This was a game changer for me. I was literally so specific to getting DMs from Hopkins students. Like, I was writing my dissertation. I was about to have a panic attack. And I went down to the student store, found ZenJoy. Now I'm drinking ZenJoy every day, and I'm feeling a lot better.
That's awesome.
Stuff like that, just that feedback, because we have a very long-term goal of starting our own nonprofit in the mental health space, because there's a lot of communities that have, and Baltimore is one of the number one, that have zero access to mental health facilities, to on-the-ground support, to community counseling and things like that. That there are great organizations like NAMI that we already donate back to that help with that, but we want to start our own, and have a real impact. And it's nice selling a product that the more of it you sell, the more positive impact you have. There's a lot of products that aren't like that. But for us, it's like the more ZenJoy we sell, the more stress relief we're spreading. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's a positive reaction cycle, and that's what keeps us in the pocket with ZenJoy for sure.
That's great. What would you say is your biggest challenge with your role at ZenJoy today?
Wrapping my head around raising money. I don't like asking people for stuff. My brother gave me a good line of advice probably 6 months ago. He said, everybody answers to somebody, which kind of opened up that thought process for me. But still, I just find it uncomfortable. I don't care how much money a person has. I do find it uncomfortable asking them for some of it. But the more I've realized, the more people that have invested in the brand is like, at least the people that invest in us, they really believe in what we're doing and they want to be a part of it. But that's been, I would say, my biggest, in my role at the company, has been something I've had to really get more comfortable with, which I have. But it took a while of asking people for money. And then I think a lot of that is the imposter syndrome that comes with being a founder at a company that's doing well early, is like, you don't think you deserve the money per se. But once we really, started to hit our stride, and when we would get money in, we would deploy it really well in ways that would grow the business. I started getting more comfortable with like, okay, we should have this money because I can give that person a really good return on their investment. So that was definitely a mental barrier that was like, this is so weird. I'm at dinner with this person and I'm about to ask them for 20 grand. Like, this is weird. Getting through that mental barrier was, I would say, essential to where we are.
With the whole money raising process, are you doing it more just like one-on-one, or sometimes people run those Kickstarter campaigns or some website where you can go and invest or whatever it may be, these platforms?
Yeah, we don't have a Kickstarter or any other platform right now. We have what's called a safe note, a simple agreement for future equity. It's Y Combinator created this. Most people are raising their pre-seed on a safe note. I think it was like 90% of early stage investment dollars going to safe notes. It's one-on-one meetings, or for example, we have a group that's about to invest in us. It's like an angel syndicate group. So we met with the guy who is the point person for the group. He loved it. He was like, I'm in. He had to send samples to all the rest of the group, and then it's like each person says yes or no, and then they write one check as a group and invest into the round. So it's been a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of one-on-ones. We're hoping to get in front of some larger groups as we grow, but if I had to get used to $25,000 checks, I'm definitely gonna have to figure out the $500,000 check for the subsequent rounds of funding we'll probably need. But we're trying to grow a business that doesn't need dilutive dollars. That's actually bankable. So lost term, a bankable beverage business. So we're trying to create something that's sustainable.
If someone's listening to this, Mac, and they're like, hey, you know what? I love ZenJoy. I would like to be involved. Like, can anyone just, be like, hey, here's a check for whatever? Like, are there certain minimums or requirements?
Yeah, we do, just because we don't want to have, 500 people on the cap table, which is why we haven't done a crowdfunding campaign and things like that. It is a $10,000 minimum check. But for people that, have an interest in angel investing or are angel investing, we find that that's pretty low of a minimum. So, it's anyone can. Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to be like accredited to invest in our round. It's a very simple agreement. It's not a 100-page term sheet. It's a 3-page term sheet. So yeah, we're always open to conversations. And in fact, the people that I found that have invested in us typically tend to be people that were buying the product and literally just didn't know that it was a local brand that they could reach out to. So
that's great. So minimum 10K, they're listening to it. It's a note. You don't get equity. So that means they'll be receiving interest payments, right?
So no, it's not a convertible note.
Okay.
It's a safe note. So there's a $5 million cap, 20% discount. There is no convertible loan factor. It's just a SAFE, SAFE, simple agreement for future equity. So, you get a discount on your investment. Like you invest today, depending on what our next round valuation is, you'll get anywhere from minimum 20% discount on your dollar to, maximum, however bad we F up and don't raise soon enough, you'll get even more equity on that. So it really is like placing your bet. on the business, that we're going to be able to raise a significant round of funding within the next 12 to 18 months, and that'll convert at a heavy discount of what the valuation would be at the time we raise.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Coming
yes, sir.
to an end here soon. What do you know now that you wish you would have known at the start of your career?
Probably nothing, man. I mean, like I want to learn it all. I think that that's essential. I feel like people that go in with too much knowledge are the people that are, trying to do too much from the jump and not paying attention to the consumer and not paying attention to, what they need to hone their product to be. So not a lot. I mean, like I've enjoyed the learning experience. I think that's been critical to where we're at. For all three of us, for me, Tim and Dan, as founders. Maybe know a few more rich people. Like that would be great.
Of course,
You know what I mean?
we all can know more.
Exactly. So probably, that would really be the only one. Maybe more networked in. But in terms of like learning lessons, I think everything has been very important for us to learn.
You've mentioned a couple times that as far as mentors, and I think you said even maybe some people sit on the board. What'd you learn from them?
Yeah. Especially with Jeff, who's on our board, who's been doing his own distribution at a very high level for a long time. It's less specifics and it's more the confidence to know that we can accomplish the business in that way, in that path to market. And it's credibility too. Like when you're a buyer at a major retailer and you have 3 20-something-year-olds on a call, and they're saying all the right things. And then you also have some gray hair on the call as well, who maybe you've already worked with, maybe you've heard of, their business, what they've accomplished, saying, yeah, these guys have what it takes. These guys know, we're doing it right. We have the system built, all that kind of stuff. I think it lends credibility, I think, in a big way. And there are always, minor connections and things like that we're able to get through our mentors and advisors. But I think a lot of it is, especially with the board members, credibility. Because like I said, you got 3 enthusiastic people in front of you that are very passionate about a product, but clearly aren't industry, veterans or experts. Having an industry veteran and expert in that mix, I think kind of just rounds out the whole offering. And that's honestly why we were able to get Giant and Food Line to let us bring it in ourselves so quick. It's because we had that experience on the board that they made them comfortable with that.
What does the next couple of years look like? What are you most excited about?
Man, I'm very excited. In 2 weeks, we go to our first big industry trade show. It's called Expo West. It's like the trade show of the industry. We were blessed by our ashwagandha supplier to get a free booth. It usually costs like 30 or 40 grand. That's extremely exciting. It's going to set us up for the future.
Nice.
I think the future for us for, 2 years looks like continuing to grow in the Northeast, growing up into Maine, growing down into Florida, knocking down those retailers, the Wegmans, the Publix, the Stop and Shops, all those guys. And then building out a plan into the next 4 to 6 years to go national. It's a whole different ball game when you're national, when you're working with these very large distributors that are very financially difficult to work with. It's a whole different ball game. So I think that's the goal for us. Is we don't want to build a small regional brand. That's not our goal. Not to say that can't be a goal, but that's not our goal. So it's going to be an interesting process. We'll probably have to add a lot more smart people with gray hairs onto the board to get that job done, but we'll get it done.
What's the end goal, Mac? Is it, go large and then maybe sell off to Coca-Cola or Pepsi or?
I don't know. I think personally, by the time we've gotten to that stage, the landscape might look a little bit different. You got brands like Olipop that are, nearing $1 billion in sales that are themselves going to go public. That might end up being acquisition opportunities that aren't Coke or Pepsi.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously everyone dreams of selling to, AB InBev, Coke, Pepsi. Celsius just acquired Alani.
Mm-hmm.
The number 3 acquired the number 4 in the energy space.
It's like 1.5 billion or something.
Yeah, Celsius got fleeced. But I don't know. I think we'll see. Obviously, we want to have liquidity events for our
Sure.
investors, and for ourselves as well. But I don't know. I think we'll see. I think anyone that has that question at our stage fully answered is kidding themselves, and they really don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, we'll see. We have big goals. I don't know what the liquidity at the end of the day looks like and how that comes. If it's profitability and, you know, going public, staying private. Red Bull is one of the largest private companies in the world. And the family that runs that and all the early stage folks are billionaires. So I don't know. We'll see. We are in it for the long haul, though. You know,
Okay.
there is no, if I don't get this thing sold in the next 6 years, I'm going on to something else. We're in it for the long haul.
Okay, that's good to know. If people want to learn more about you, and they want to reach out and ZenJoy, where can they go to, please?
Yeah, so if you want to just look at the brand and order it online or something like that, our website is drinkzenjoy.com. So is our social media. All of our social media is Drink ZenJoy. If you want to chat with me, I'd love to chat. I'm on LinkedIn. So Mack Anderson on LinkedIn, or my email is Mack, MACK @drinkzenjoy.com as well. I would love to chat with anyone, whether it's you're interested in the brand and learning more about it from a partnership perspective, an investor perspective, or if you're like, man, I've been thinking about starting my own brand. I definitely love those conversations too. So I'll have all of the conversations.
Mac, it's amazing what you're building, man. Congrats.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on, man. This is great. I look forward to maybe coming back in the future and having even more stuff to talk about.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Take care.
You too.